first Far Cry, released in 2004, was definitely fun, but largely felt like a very engaging tech demo. It featured wide-open levels set on a tropical island with lush vegetation and brutal, genetically altered inhabitants. The game's creators, Crytek Studios, later jumped ship to EA, where they began creating what would become the Crysis series. Meanwhile, Ubisoft's Montreal studio carried the Far Cry torch, creating a couple console-only Far Cry games and, eventually, Far Cry 2. The second numbered entry in the series left the tropics in favor of the jungles, deserts, and savannas of Africa. This was a much more realistic game, focusing on the pursuit of an arms dealer and forgoing mutated enemies of any sort. Now the series has come back to the islands with Ubisoft's Far Cry 3. Genetically engineered creatures are out, psychotropic drugs and tattoos are in. RPG elements abound, from item crafting to character leveling. Does this ambitious and unique game have the chops to stand out amongst the likes of other recently released AAA shooters? Far Cry 3 follows the exploits of Jason Brody, a young thrill-seeker who comes to a Pacific island with his two brothers and a couple friends to skydive, hang glide, and generally do dangerous things. This group of young and attractive white people are soon captured by the sociopathic Vaz, forcing Jason to escape and try to save his compatriots. He is aided by the Rakyat tribe, specifically Dennis, who imbues him with his first Tatau, and priestess Citra. That setup initially seemed pretty shallow to me, but the initially squeamish Jason
Alright, you can do this.
Gradually grows more battle-hardened. As he begins to go native, he starts to enjoy killing and seems to delight a little too much in the chaos he creates.
Wow! Did you see that explosion?
His journey is ultimately a simple one, but it's also surprisingly dynamic. It made me think about the toll so much murder and mayhem might have on a man, and I ended up taking this story more seriously than I had expected to. While Far Cry 3 does feature discrete story missions that follow a set path, there are many ways to both get to and tackle each objective. The islands you'll traverse form an enormous playable sandbox that is riddled with animals to hunt, vehicles to drive, and enemies to battle. Hunting and skinning animals nets hides that can be used to craft weapon holsters, ammo pouches, and larger rucksacks, among other things. Gathering plants of different colors will allow you to make syringes that restore health, grant increased resistance to fire, and generally aid you in your various endeavors. Patrolling enemies make using open roads a risky venture and force you to utilize stealthy tactics or engage in direct combat. Eliminating foes and completing missions will net XP that can be spent on skills in 3 different skill trees. Some will add more health slots, while others might enable stealthy takedowns. Enemy bodies in various containers can be looted, giving you ammunition or money that can be spent on buying or upgrading weapons. Add to that radio towers to capture that will earn you free weapons from vendors and add more detail to your world map. There are a number of different ways to spend experience points and tailor your character to whatever playstyle suits you best. Far Cry 3 deftly balances tightly directed missions and a wide open play space in a way that ensures you'll always have something to do, and these activities are varied and rewarding enough to hold your interest. At any given moment in Far Cry 3, you're going to be hearing several things at once. From the comments of pirates
It sounded like something.
to the grunts of warthogs, there's always something going on. Because of how wide open this game is, sound becomes even more important than it might be in a more linear experience. While moving through thick vegetation, hearing a wild dog's growl might be your only indication that an attack is imminent. The sound of a car engine will let you know that it's time to get off the road if you don't want to be spotted by a roving patrol. More so than in most shooters, I found myself really listening to everything around me while moving through Far Cry 3's lush and dangerous world. Voice acting is also excellent throughout the entirety of this experience, especially memorable characters like Voss.
You think that makes you like me? Huh? California boy's got a hard on.
And Sam.
How is he? I have been concerned about him, hearing nothing all these years.
He's fine, I guess.
Loss! Loss!
Where did he go?
Have personality to spare. Their performances walk the line between serious and outright goofy in a way that kept me feeling both entertained and uneasy. The audio design in Far Cry 3 weaves together pertinent information, great performances, and general quality in a way that definitely impresses. Before I start preparing myself for angry comments, let me say that I know Far Cry 3 looks substantially better on PC than it does on consoles. I only had access to this game on Xbox 360, so everything in this section pertains exclusively to that version. That said, evaluating how good or bad Far Cry 3 looks is still quite difficult. On the one hand are detailed character models, incredible draw distances, and a living world featuring tons of things happening at once. On the other are strange visual glitches, geometry that pops in constantly, and occasional subpar textures. Overall, Far Cry 3 looks great. I think its draw distance is more impressive than any of its faults are disappointing. Lighting and shadows are used to great effect, and the shifting day-night cycle makes encounters feel very different depending on what time of day they occur. Explosions look great, and the way enemies react to gunfire looks particularly brutal. For every less than stellar piece of Far Cry 3's visual presentation, there are 5 exceptional ones. I'm giving some extra points here for this game's enormity and fantastic immersion. Ubisoft has referred to Far Cry 3 as Skyrim with guns. I think that assessment is simultaneously misleading and fairly accurate. While RPG elements like character leveling and item crafting are critical components of play, this is not a full-fledged RPG. I also think the shooting here is better than Skyrim with guns would imply. Fallout 3 was Skyrim with guns. Far Cry, however, is an exceptional shooter that happens to feature side quests scattered across a gigantic living world. And it's that huge playable space that really makes this game something special. You might find yourself running through dense foliage, trying to escape from an angry animal, only to emerge onto an open road where a pirate taking a bathroom break will notice you and call out to his allies. If there's an alarm nearby, one of them might make a run for it, trying to call for backup. Maybe the animal that was chasing you will distract these new enemies. Organically occurring moments like these pop up frequently in Far Cry 3 and keep you on your toes. When engaging enemies, you'll be able to use binoculars to scout out an area and see what you're up against. On-screen indicators will let you know if an enemy is about to spot you, and you'll need to be careful about leaving behind dead bodies as they will alert other foes to your presence. You can use silenced weapons or takedowns to move through foes one by one, or go in guns blazing and set off a full-blown firefight. Being able to switch between playing stealthily or aggressively on a whim really works here and is aided by a very competent shooting system. Guns handle well, but controlling them feels a little more rigid than in Halo or Call of Duty. There is a very unobtrusive cover system in place, but it doesn't force you to stick to walls, and I often forgot it was even there. I was just having too much fun playing to focus on it. Using vehicles and later on wingsuits makes navigation a blast. Driving in particular feels frenetic and exciting. Far Cry 3 features a perfect blend of random and strictly controlled elements, and your interactions with its many components often feel both thrilling and natural. Running straight through Far Cry 3's campaign on normal difficulty took me about 15 hours. I ignored a ton of side quests, challenges, and only hunted enough to craft the few items I felt I needed. Completionists will likely spend closer to 30 hours trying to eke every bit of playtime out of Ubisoft's latest. Then there is a cooperative campaign with its own story and an online competitive mode. There are very few games that pack this much content into a $60 release, and I'm already itching to revisit the brutal world of Far Cry 3. This is a unique and enthralling game with plenty to offer any player looking for a shooter that's a little different and a lot of fun.